All right, we'll effectively call our committee meeting, the Anchorage Executive Committee of the Assembly to order at 4:30 p.m. on August 31st, 2023. And we'll have welcome and introductions, and certainly I am Pastor Leon May the First, Reverend of the Desert Community Church, representative of the Interdenominational Ministry Alliance of Anchorage and Vicinity, as well as, I guess I'll turn that on, as well as the MLK Foundation of Alaska. And we'll go around the room for our intros, and then we'll entertain those who are online sharing with us on today. Shelley for now.
Hello everyone, I'm Celeste Hodge Browden, President and CEO of the Alaska Black Caucus.
Good afternoon, I'm Lori Pickett with Alaska Literacy Program.
Me. Hi everyone, Thea Agnew-Benben, co-chair of the committee.
Will Junior Amavai, Chief Equity Officer.
Candace Bell, representing Alaska Rainbow Elders.
All right, thank you. Those in the room, and certainly we have Ms. Jasmine here with us. And those of you online, you can proceed.
Karen Bronga, Assembly.
All right, thank you.
I can call you. Lucy?
Have a good one. Lucy Hampson, Polynesian Association of Alaska.
Thank you. Teresa?
Teresa Holt, AARP Alaska.
Great. Lisa?
Lisa Aquino, Anchorage Neighborhood Health Center.
Joan?
Joan Ryan, Board President of Enlaces and Deputy Program Coordinator for the Healthy and Equitable Communities Unit for the state of Alaska.
Great. Felix?
Hi everyone, Felix Rivera, Anchorage Assembly.
And a phone number, 907-215-8850?
Hi, that's me. It's Allie Hartman, Communications Coordinator for the Anchorage Assembly.
All right, thank you guys so much, and certainly glad to have everyone in-house and online who are present on this evening, and thank God that Miss Thea has a computer in front of her, because I can't hardly read that far. Online. And so we're thankful. All right, we're up to our land and labor acknowledgement. Ms. Lucy, you on for that?
As we build a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive future, can you hear me fine?
Yes.
We acknowledge the indigenous people of the land on which we work and live. The land that now makes up the United States of America was the traditional home, hunting ground, trade exchange point, and migration route of more than 574 American Indian and Alaska Native, federally recognized tribes, and many more tribal nations that are not federally recognized or no longer exist. We recognize that we work throughout the ancestral and unceded territory of the indigenous peoples of Alaska. We recognize the cruel legacy of slavery and colonialism in our nation, and acknowledge the people whose labor was exploited for generations to help establish the economy of the United States. We recognize our place within the history of colonialism that has led to the occupation of this land, and celebrate the continued contributions of indigenous people. Our office is located within Denena El Nina, the traditional land of the Denena Athabascan, but our work spans the entire city of Anchorage. We owe deep gratitude to the indigenous people of Alaska for their continued care and stewardship of the land on which we work. We honor indigenous, enslaved, and immigrant people, resilience, labor, and stewardship of the land, and commit to creating a future founded on respect, justice, and inclusions for all people as we work to heal the deepest generations' wounds.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lucy, for that in-depth land and labor acknowledgement. Thank you ever so much. All right, we'll move to our unfinished business. We have an update on the language access audit. That will be at the September meeting, as you know, on your agenda. Housing and homelessness discussion with Health Department will be September meeting as well. All right, we're up to an update from Community Data Collection Subcommittee with Ms. Thea and Taffy, excuse me.
I don't see Taffy on, so I can just report that we met to discuss how we can be useful to the municipality, the assembly, and other entities potentially around advising on equitable data collection. So this issue is really that sometimes when we're collecting data, we're actually kind of grouping people together in ways that make it difficult to really see what's going on. And so we can address this when we get later in the agenda on our charter. We actually added something to our charter to address this. This is sort of that's our proposed solution. So I'll just leave it at that until we get to the part where we look at the additions for the charter, most of which we talked about last time, and this is one that we haven't talked about yet.
All righty, thank you, Ms. Thea. Any questions, commentary for Thea? All righty, hearing none, we have update from Certified Welcoming Subcommittee with Thea and Maura. Maura was unable to be here on this evening, and so we'll hear from Thea.
Okay, and actually, so Maura and I met to talk about, if you remember, we looked at the kind of details of going through the welcoming certification process. And Felix had shared those a few meetings ago. We kind of came to the conclusion or the recommendation to the committee that this would actually be a really great process for the municipality to go through. And it could be the process that leads to an equity plan for the municipality, which is something that's on our annual plan, but with one important kind of change or caveat, which is as you go through all of the kind of instructions of that certification process, the emphasis for the process, the way that it's written, is really around people who are immigrating to your community from somewhere else. But Mara, and I'm guessing Felix would speak to this also, says that it's a process that you can adapt to your community, and so we would want it to be inclusive of all of the different groups of people that our committee is interested in. So we would be broadening it quite a bit to include, if you go back to our charter, all of the different groups that we're interested in. So that's the important caveat that we want to offer. But other than that, we think it would be a great process for the municipality to go through and could then result in an equity plan that would be part of what we've talked about doing in our annual plan. And maybe I just ask Felix if you want to speak to it at all or have anything to add.
Yeah, thanks, Thea. No, I think you got the gist of it. So Welcoming America Island Network primarily focuses around relationships with immigrant communities, but we, I think as you and Mira came to the conclusion to, can really shape this work to fit our community. And so that's what we tried to do with the Welcoming Roadmap, is really shape it to fit our community. And so looking forward to that in the future.
So I don't think we need to take any action tonight. Maybe just if anyone has other questions or discussion, or we can just kind of bring this up again when we get to talking about our annual plan later in the meeting. Larry, did you have a question?
I was just going to ask for more information, like links to anything that we should review around that.
Okay. Felix, would you, since you're at your computer, would you be able to just send the link to the certification process and maybe your slides to Jasmine so she can share them with the committee?
Sure, I can send it to Justin.
Okay, awesome. And then, do you want to speak to what you put in the chat, or do you want me to?
I can speak to it briefly, and the reason I put it in the chat is because you all have a full agenda, and so if we went down this road, it would probably destroy your agenda. But I did put in the chat that September, especially since we all meet at the end of the month, a late September meeting would be too late for this committee to weigh in on the emergency cold weather shelter plan, because the decision will be made by the end of September. So if this committee wants to weigh on it before decisions are made, then I would suggest an alternate route. And this committee has been pretty good about smaller groups trying to provide advice on things, so I don't know if that's the route you want to go, but just wanted to flag that.
So that is related to the second.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, we're back to that. All right. All right, so at what point is the decision going to be made, Mr. Felix?
Yeah, so the funding decision so there's two different parts. There's the funding part of it, and then there's the operations part of it. The funding part is going to be made on September 12th, at least that's the plan right now. And then the operations part will probably be made the second meeting in September, which is, I think, September 26th.
How do they know how much to fund if the operations decision hasn't been made?
How about I say?
You asked Felix, just curious, how do you know how much to fund if the operational decision hasn't already been made?
Yeah, so essentially what we do is on September 12th, we're going to fund what the Anchorage Health Department has sort of projected as a budget. And then between now and the second meeting in September, the Anchorage Health Department will work within that projected budget and they're actually doing it right now. Like, they have RFIs out, and they're going to put out an ITB probably next week to get both hotels and operators. So we work off of a draft budget of the Anchorage Health Department, some projections that they put forward for the proposed budget that we're going to be voting on the 12th.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Felix pertaining to that homelessness issue?
I'm just curious, should we, so it's the 31st today, so if we were gonna get a smaller group together, we would need to, if it's gonna be more than 3 people, how much in advance would we have to public notice something like that, Jasmine?
It depends on the type of meeting that you want to do. So I can look up specifically, so special meetings are 24 hours.
Oh, okay.
When I do a work session, I can
Okay.
do 7 days.
I think it'd be a special meeting, right?
Special would be 24 hours.
Okay. Felix, is there written stuff that we could review already, or what would we be reviewing?
So there is a written document that was laid on the table at our last assembly meeting that folks could review, but that's really just the funding. It's not going to give you the particulars of what shelter might look like. I would suggest probably reviewing the Anchorage Health Department's presentation that they made at the Housing and Homelessness Committee meeting earlier this month.
Okay. So I guess my question is, should we have a special committee meeting? That's my question.
All right, and you heard this question, should we have a special committee meeting? Is that the desire of the committee? To have a special committee meeting in reference to the funding and operations of this business with housing and homelessness.
And if we do a special meeting, it's totally optional. It just allows us to have more than 3 people there. So it could be open to whoever wants to come, and no one's obliged to come.
So well, I don't need to sit through the chair, but because it's not familiar to me, I would probably like to have a side meeting or a special meeting. to gain additional information.
Okay, and
Through the chair, Member Braga has her hand.
all right, Ms. Braga.
Hey, thank you. So it's going to be really hard looking at the slide from what the health department proposed with the hotel or one meeting, but
Are you speaking that, excuse me, we're having a problem hearing? Are you close to your mic or?
She started out strong.
Yeah. Started out real good, then your voice faded.
can you hear me now?
Well, yes. Not good enough.
Okay, well, never mind. I'll chat my happy.
Okay, thank you so much. And so I guess what's on the table now is what is the preference from the committee relative to a special meeting? And as we're hearing, it requires a 24-hour notice. And so is that something that we want to do?
I would like to do it. I'm happy to,
Well,
be
then,
there.
okay, then my suggestion at this particular point is that our co-chair would set up a time for a special meeting or whatever, and we'll notice it, and then those who have interest relative to that special meeting can attend.
Could people just here in the room raise your hand if you want to know you want to be there, and online just maybe raise your hand in the icons, and then I'll just consult with you on the time, so we won't do that right now.
Is there somewhere in between yes and no?
Then I won't consult you on the time.
Okay.
Okay. So less than this. Thank you. Done.
Yeah, myself.
Yeah. Oh, you. Okay, great.
All right.
Through the chair, Lisa has her hand up, and Member Braga put a note in.
Who was that?
So Lisa has her hand up, and Member Braga put a note in that says the health department is also looking at a shelter location, so there's no solid plan at this time. You all can meet, but there is a lot of influx.
So the health department doesn't have a specific plan at this time. All right, Ms. Lisa?
I think she just raised her hand to say she just wants to be on the
Oh, committee? All righty. Thank you. Yeah, so the health department doesn't have a specific plan, and he was, Felix was saying that we might look at what their plan, but they don't have a specific plan, so.
We'll just review whatever.
Yeah.
Somebody's got.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then we'll go through with that matter and set up the meeting, and whoever's interested can share. All righty. Next, we have the AARP offering, Committee Technical Assistance Award from Change Lab with Teresa Ho. Teresa, would you speak to that for us?
Sure. So AARP received this technical assistance grant from Change Labs, which is essentially a national equity change agent, if you would. They go into communities and help make change. And I had a little bit of a conversation with Thea about this by email, but as part of this technical assistance grant, they can do a couple things. They could come and do presentations. I don't know that a presentation to this group would be very helpful, but if there's like to the assembly or something, they could do that. But the piece that I thought this group might want more is to do an evaluation of municipal policy. We would pick a section of policy, and I looked in our plan, and our plan has priorities for 2023 that we haven't worked on yet, so it might be a good project to start with, is to look at either equitable granting, hiring, contracting processes at the municipality. Probably not all three of those, but maybe we could pick one. We could find policies for them, and they could either give us model policies, tell us, what would be good to change in that policy,
And then they could either come and do a presentation, or we could have them write a report, whatever you guys would like. And if the group decides you don't want to do anything, then I will just use this in another way in the community. But I wanted to offer it up to this committee first.
All righty, thank you, Ms. Teresa. And we have it worded as a technical assistance award. Is it basically grant based, or how is, Change Lab is awarding the award? Is it funding for them to do what they do, or is it funding or something that we could use, or is it based upon them making presentations, or just what is the gist of it?
So it's technical assistance, which means that AARP has purchased their time.
Okay.
So it doesn't come with funding for this group or for my office, but what it comes with is the expertise of Change Labs.
Okay.
So we can ask them to do something within a scope of practice. And really the two things they offer is sort of digital equity training for community action training, or this last piece, which is what I'm recommending to this group, is a policy review where they could give us, look at the Anchorage policy, let's just say around contracting.
Okay.
And then they could come back and give this group some recommendations about how this policy could be changed that would be better, and then it would be up to this group to advocate with the municipality to make certain changes. So an example is we got a very similar technical assistance grant around accessory dwelling units. And so the national expert on accessory dwelling units looked at Anchorage's policies. We already had a committee that was working on changing these policies for, most people know them as mother-in-law apartments, but they're really small, tiny houses on somebody's home property. This person looked through it and he was like, oh, here, you should change this, you could change this, you could change this, you could change this. Here's how you can organize around going to the assembly meeting. Here's who I would recommend that you get to include. So for example, he said, you should have a contractor, you should have an architect, you should have the city planner should come, you should have people who represent seniors, people who represent young people. And so we got a group of people, we went to the assembly, we advocated, and we got that ordinance changed.
Okay.
We didn't get everything, but we got a fair amount. So that's sort of what I envision this opportunity to be.
Okay, thank you, Teresa. I guess the base of my question was the foundation of the award, and my clarity comes in when you stated that AARP has purchased this technical assistance from Change Lab, and so you guys have purchased it and you want to share it with us, is my understanding at this particular point. And basically I like the idea of the evaluations of municipality policy, since that's part of what we're about. So I kind of like that, and do want to thank you for being so generous with AARP's funding. Thank you. Yeah. Any other involvement? Ma'am?
So the only other thing is that we need to have them do some action before December. So we would need to pick a policy or a section of policy that we want them to look at, and then I could work with somebody to get the actual policies to them. Does anybody have a preference of what they might? I just pick stuff from the plan, but I'm open to suggestions.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions. So Change Lab, I'm not familiar with them. So can you just give a brief what their expertise is, and then, you know, I definitely believe that the policies need reviewing within the municipality. A lot of them are ancient, and I think that's a good start. So can you just tell me though a little bit, just a sentence or two, what is their area of expertise, Change Lab?
I'm just putting it on their website.
There's their website. Thank you for whoever did that. So they are a national company that, here it is, Healthier Communities for All Through Equitable Law and Policies. So this is really what they do. And they go in and they help groups make change in their community. So that's why I said at the beginning that they're really a change agent. They're there to educate people, to help them advocate for things that would make their community more equitable. I believe that their main focus is on health. But when I mentioned to them that we would be looking at the thing that was in our plan, which is contracting or various hiring, contracting, or granting. That is something that they can do. They also offered up, I'm just looking at the email here, equitable education and opportunities and meeting basic needs. I'm not sure what they meant by that. If you guys want to take advantage of this opportunity, they would be willing to come to one of the assembly meetings, I think. They're all on the East Coast, so it would be a big time thing for them. But we could check in with them and see.
Okay, and the final question. I noticed you said like one or two or a few of the policies, and the Muni has a lot of policies. So I'm just wondering, what the size of the grant is and how much we might be able to get them to do review the policies.
They would probably be able to look at one section of policy, right? It depends, how much policy Anchorage has. But so, for example, when we did the one for accessory dwelling units, there was probably, I want to say, 4 or 5 pages. They looked through that, made suggestions on what, but we couldn't, for example, say, can you look at housing? Because that's too big of a project. It's about 20 hours of work, which includes meetings and making reports and doing research. So my suggestion is if we want to do something that's on our work plan, we pick granting, hiring, or what was the other piece? I forget already.
Contract hire?
Yeah.
Procurement? Okay, thank you.
Granting, hiring, or contracting.
Yes. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just guessing that there's a lot of pages of policy for each one of those, right?
Okay. And I guess my recommendation at this particular point would be that we visit that when we're going to move to our annual plan discussion and identify priorities. And so within that, if the committee chooses to, we could pull policy priority and go forward from that aspect of it. And this has to be completed by December 31st, correct?
Right. So we would want to let them know which policy, in the next month or so at the very latest. Okay.
All right. And being that they're on the East Coast, you were saying that they would be willing to come to present, or is that correct?
Virtual. It would probably come virtually.
Okay.
The issue is that 4 o'clock our time is 9 o'clock their time, so it'd be like 9 to 10 at night for them.
Right. And you mentioned.
So I can't commit until I ask them if they would come in person, in virtually.
Right, and you mentioned presenting to the assembly, but I'm thinking that you were meaning presenting to the committee. Am I correct in my assumption?
Well, so they do a general, like, understanding equity presentation. In my opinion, that's not appropriate for this group, right? But if there was another group, the assembly as an assembly, or I don't know what other group we would be looking at, but that is one option.
Yes, I guess what I'm thinking about before we move on is this, whatever policy priority that we might choose to have looked at, whether it be virtual or whatever, would they be making the presentation relative to that aspect of policy with this committee?
Yes, if we choose for this committee, that's what they would review the policy. They could either make a report and then answer questions, or they could do a presentation to this committee.
Okay, all right, that's some clarity for me at least on that. And then so when we get to our annual plan and identify priorities, we can maybe look at a policy that we might want to have looked at. Thank you so much again for your generosity and explanations. All right, we move on to new business, and off the top, new member nominations. All righty. Okay, you want to do nominations first?
Oh, that's more of an informational. Just real quick on just informational, and this is in accordance with what we talked about when we have members that are representing an organization. So just to let you know that Anchorage Neighborhood Health was represented by Shannon Savage very well, and she's no longer working there, so now we get to have Lisa Aquino, who's their CEO, so she's joining us tonight.
All righty.
Welcome, Lisa.
Welcome, Lisa. Yeah. All right, we're up to the member nominations, and we do have Miss Lucy. Are you prepared to make a nomination at this point?
I didn't hear you.
I was asking, were you prepared to make a nomination for committee membership?
Yes, I do want to nominate, like I did mention the last meeting, that I will bring a nominator, somebody in to nominate for to be a member of this group. And I wanted to bring in Miss Pepe Amarita Dawang, and she is the currently president of AFA, Alaska Federation of Filipino American. She's serving her 4th term as the president now for the Filipino Alaska Federation. She worked with the Muni, retired from the Muni for 33 years. She used to work for the Muni, and I talked to her, and she is willing to participate as a member. So I don't know, since we don't have a representative for our Filipino community, I feel that it's an opportunity to bring one of our community in, a leader.
All righty. Thank you, Miss Lucy. Miss Lucy is nominating and presenting, and I don't want to get the name wrong, Pepe Dawang, who's president of the Filipino American Federation. Is that correct? And representing the Filipino community, and nominating and recommending that she become a part of this equity committee. And so I would first off ask, is there a motion to make her a member? And I'm going to take a second. If there's any discussion following that, then we'll have a discussion. Any motion?
I would move that.
All right. Ms. Candace.
That we accept
Bill.
this person as a member.
All righty. And second by Ms. Lori Pickett. Any discussion on the motion?
So I just have a question, because I'm thinking, I can't think of her name right now, and I need to know, what does it say as it relates to a member of a group? Can we have more than one, or, because I'm thinking of, she works in the AERC. Marie.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have any limits.
Okay.
Like that, so.
Well, I guess my question would be, you said no limits, is she part of the same organization?
No.
Or it's a different organization?
So Marie has always joined, she is a member of the Filipino community, but she hasn't really ever been a representative of a community organization. She's really more of an individual member.
Okay. All righty. So if she's not coming recommended by for a specific organization or whatever that we already have representation for, then it still would be allowed. And I guess that's what, yeah. Okay, that's your question. All right. Okie dokie. Any other discussion?
There's a motion on the floor.
Yeah, we're discussing. Yeah. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposes?
Aye.
All right. Good. And so moved. And we can invite Miss President DeWall to the meeting. Dwight, amen. Excuse me.
Her name is Emerita Dawag. D-A-W-H-E. I'll put it on chat.
Thank you, Lucy.
Emerita. All righty. All right, let me ask, are there any other nominations? All righty, hearing no other nominations, we'll move to committee updates. And any members who have any updates to share, now is the time. And thanks to those who have submitted them to Ms. Jazz and her group. Thank you so much for that. And they're on screens, those that are there.
And Jasmine, did you also get the one from Key Getty? Okay.
Yes, it's just in October, I believe.
Alrighty, and I did not submit one, but we do have our interdenominational leadership alliance is having what we're terming a citywide revival on September 13th through the 15th. It'll be hosted at Shiloh Church, April 20th, and Bishop Dr. J. Lewis Felton is going to be the evangelist soon, so everybody's invited. Okay, Joan.
Yes, sorry, just going back for the events, the needs assessment presentation that LSS is going to do is not on the 9th, it's on the 19th of September. The date is wrong, so we just need to change it, and I'll send the link whenever they send it to me. That was all. Thank you.
Okay, the 19th. Okay. Thank you. Issa?
Yeah, I sent on the calendar that we're hosting a welcoming week celebration at Grow North Farm. And so everybody's invited, but I also just want to say there's an opportunity if people do want to come and table or do activities at it. We've had some groups already sign up, ACLU, ACPERG, the Anchorage School District, the Ombudsman's Office. But if you're interested and you want to come and table, it's very low stakes. There's no fee or anything. It's just to offer resources to the community, and there'll be refugee entrepreneurs on site and immigrants and others present. So if anyone's interested, just send me an email and I'll send you the link to sign up to come. Thanks.
Thank you, Issa. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Any other updates? All righty, then hearing none, we'll go to assembly updates. Any assembly updates? Mr. Felix, you have anything else? Ms. Rhonda?
I'm scared to talk now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think that Felix is better for assembly updates related to this, but I did want to say I saw the art person who was speaking. I also saw something interesting coming up on the 15th, which was to make public spaces appropriate for 8 to 80, looking at making sure that we're not leaving older people out when we design parks. And I thought that seemed very interesting. George Martinez and I are working on a NACTO resolution, and NACTO is an association that helps to design non-motorized paths, and they have some really well thought out, very they're just really excellent options for making bike infrastructure. And we are looking at passing this resolution that when we put in new trails, or we try to design new trails, that we're first looking at what NACTO suggests, and not saying that that's the only thing possible. I also wanted to shout out, this has nothing to do with assembly doing, but when we're on trails, there's a pilot project for a separated bike lane on Pine Street, so that's in Lori's area, and it's really cool. They've got these bollards up along Pine Street so you can really visibly see this is the bike lane, and if it works well, they'll expand it next summer. So I think that's pretty awesome, and that's really all I want to say. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Ms. Karen. Alrighty, do you have anything, Mr. Felix?
Yeah, sure. I'll give a few things briefly. So, as I think this committee would be most interested in, a few things. First is the naming ordinance that revises the policy for how the municipality sets up naming panels, or, well, previously set up naming panels. If approved, we'll now have a naming commission. That ordinance is going to be before us for another public hearing and vote on September 12th, so encourage folks to take a look at that. You'll be able to take a look at the actual ordinance itself. It'll be on the addendum, which will be released on Friday, September 8th. So you'll be able to take a look at the final version before we have a public hearing and a vote on September 12th. Then there's also going to be introduced, so you'll be able to see it next week when the agenda comes out, so either on September 5th or 6th, probably on September 6th, an ordinance dealing with language access, and that's something that I am working on with Mr. Martinez. And then I feel like there's one more ordinance that this group might be interested in. If I remember it, I'll put it in the chat. But yeah, a few things I think of note if this committee just wants to be paying attention to those agendas and send in any thoughts either as individuals or as a committee, that would be great. Thanks.
Felix, is the public testimony for naming the port after Don Young at the September 12th meeting?
Let me double check the agendas really quick.
I was thinking that.
I thought that was in December, but let me double check.
Okay. I think that's something this group might want to pay attention to.
Felix, so the language access one is for next assembly meeting?
It's for introduction, so it'll be put on the agenda at the September 12th meeting, and then I think we set it for a public hearing and vote at the September 26th meeting, is I believe what we did.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, we missed what the public hearing was in September because we were all stuck on
September
naming the port after
26th.
Don Young.
Is this concerning naming the port?
No, what Joan was asking about was the language access. On the port, I'm going to let that one up here now.
All right, and I'm hearing that it's been recommended that the port be named after Don Young. Is that correct?
Yes, that was a recommendation that the mayor put forward. The way that our code works is the mayor can put forward a recommendation to name something, the assembly can, or other groups can petition someone tried to do that. And so the mayor did put forward that recommendation. The naming panel was created, and I think they're going to have their recommendation to us in December, but I'm just going to double check that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I wrote down September 12th, so I hope you can find if I'm right or not.
Okay, Ms. Moore.
Could we also get follow-up information on what was being shared about the language access audit?
I think he's searching for the poor thing.
Do you mean the resolution?
Are you?
Well, was John saying they're having public comment on the language access audit too?
And seeing that, that's what I'm.
Not the audit, they're putting forward a resolution.
To do the audit?
No, regarding language access.
Okay.
Yeah, so Felix, when will your resolution be available for review?
It's actually an ordinance, so it's changing municipal code, it's changing law regarding language access. It has nothing to do with our language access audit. That's a separate discussion topic. So that one will be available for review. Again, it's just being introduced, but it should be available for review on next week, probably by September 6th.
Okay. Go ahead.
Could we, Jasmine, can we request that you send that draft ordinance out to the committee when it's available?
I'm all about making a motion that we have a special meeting or some kind of meeting to review and have information from this committee, especially if it's going to be something else is happening on September 26th. That's a short period.
Okay, that's a motion for review by this committee. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? All right.
That's me to that.
Go ahead.
How about if we have the draft ordinance in time, we do one special meeting and look at the emergency cold weather shelter and the language access ordinance in the same special meeting?
That'd be great. And then I'll put my hand all the way up so I'm included in the selection of the time.
Okay, so what I think I'm understanding is you stated earlier that it'd be either the 5th or the 6th relative to the language access ordinance. And is that for approval or what is that?
The language access ordinance will be introduced at the meeting of September 12th. You'll be able to look at it by September 6th.
Okay.
And that will be voted on at the meeting of September 26th.
Okay. So that gives us a good time frame and reference as to when we can do what we need to do.
I'd like to amend my my motion to include it with a special meeting attached to it. Okay.
All right, amended. So amended. Rescinded and amended. Second the amendment?
Mm-hmm.
All righty. Second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you so much, and so voted be. All righty. Moving right along. All right, annual election of co-chairs. So we're up to that, and co-chairs can succeed themselves for 1 year if at the wishes of the committee for an extra year. And if not, you can nominate and or elect new co-chairs for this ensuing year.
I make a motion that the 2 co-chairs remain in office for another year.
Motion and second, any discussion? Yes.
Just, I think to follow our process, even though it's pretty slim the way we described it, it says co-chairs will be selected by nominations from the committee. So I think to be proper, we probably need to just like nominate each person who's interested and then vote on each person. I don't know if anyone else is interested, but I think we should open for nominations and then vote on each person or something like that.
Okay, and I'm thinking that's what I had did a second ago, was open it up for nominations.
Oh, I thought you were taking a motion for just voting on us.
No, so I think the nominations were open. I don't think anybody. So if you want to open up the nominations, go ahead. We'll just do
So
it.
you're nominating both of us.
They're open.
Okay.
Identical. Anyone else?
Someone else has a nomination for co-chair. A, R, and R both. Not hearing anything. So.
I move that nominations be closed.
Second?
Second.
All right, Candace has seconded. We've had seconds. Nominations have been opened and closed, and it has been nominated that Ms. Thea and myself remain for an ensuing year as co-chairs. And all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposers?
Aye.
Well, okay, that aye, was that an aye to oppose? Just teasing. Just teasing. Yeah. All right. So voted me, Miss Thea.
All right.
All right.
Can I say one thing about
yes,
that?
Yes, ma'am.
Just because in our charter right now, we say that co-chairs can serve for a maximum of 2 terms, 2 consecutive terms, I think we said. So I feel like we ought to perhaps, maybe it doesn't happen right now, but at some point in, like, before the middle of the year, we should identify a couple people who are interested in becoming co-chairs, because we're going to go off at the same time. Like, normally you'd have co-chairs staggered, but we don't have it set up that way, so maybe we just put that in our pocket for later this year. We find 2 people who want to be co-chairs, and when we start kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay.
Sounds great. I'm all in favor of getting somebody ready. All righty. Okay, we've done that. All right, the annual recommitment of committee membership. All righty, and so this is the time that all of our membership gets the opportunity to state whether they want to continue serving on the committee or not. So what do I hear?
Yay.
Should we go up there?
You ready to just go around? You willing to continue serving on the committee? Yeah. Or have you been assigned to this committee? Just tease it. Go ahead. All right.
Yes.
All righty. All right. Those of you who are online, Issa, why don't you just, okay.
Yeah,
you go ahead.
Okay. Let's see. Issa, excuse me.
I'm sorry, am I just confirming to continue to serve?
Yep.
Yes. Sorry, I have a toddler and a 10-month-old, so multiple things at once here.
That's great.
Yes.
Panna.
I'd be happy to continue to serve.
Yay. Taylor?
I would be happy to. I will also say that I think my spot is tied to cook in the tribal council, and I will be leaving CITC next week.
Oh, no.
But I would be open to staying on representing myself or in my new role.
Great. Wow. Do you want to tell us what your new role is?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, I will be in about a month starting at Rural Cap overseeing their housing programs.
Ooh, exciting. I feel like since you joined as CITC, we have to go back and see if they want to appoint somebody else. But it seems like, actually, I think Rural Cap is technically on this committee, or at least I'll have to look back at the member list. Anyway, so why don't I can circle back with Leanne about CITC, but then I feel like it'd be wonderful to have you continue. So why don't we TBD that part to figure out if Rural Cap's already represented or not.
Perfect. I will send you an email and include my personal email just so we have it.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Taylor.
Okay.
Oops, sorry, I was doing that part. Joan.
Yes, I'll be happy to continue to serve and also to be more active and start going to the meetings in person.
Great. Yeah, it's fun to see everyone in person. Teresa?
Yes, I'm happy to continue. Thank you.
Great. Lucy?
Yes, ma'am. I'll be there.
Excellent. Did I miss anyone who's online besides the assembly members?
There was customer service on format.
Yeah, that was weird. Yeah. Okay, I think we're good.
Alrighty, those that are in-house, and I guess the question would be with those who are not present, how do we deal with that? Do we need to reach out individually, or email, or send out a group notice, or
asking for reconfirmation?
Yeah,
I think it's a great opportunity to figure out who's really on the committee. So I would suggest Jasmine sends out a regular email and asks people to respond in the affirmative unless they've already done so at this meeting. And if they don't, then I recommend we say, okay, they're not on the committee. They can always rejoin at a later time. Does that seem okay, or is that too abrupt?
Sounds good.
Well, you sent out the agenda. It was on the agenda.
Yep.
So it'll be multiple opportunities.
Yes. Okay. And Pastor Hannah had her hand up, but it's not happening.
Through the chair, I also just wanted to mention that we had a 2 for CITC, so we had Brittany as well. So I don't know if she would take place or not.
Great, thank you, Jasmine. Well, I can just sort that out offline with Leanne. Okay.
Yeah, and so if she continues, we'll have that one, and then
we figure out what
Taylor can go with the new group.
Okay, cool.
Alrighty. Alrighty, thank you guys so much for that and for your recommitment to serve.
Through the chair, Hannah has her hand up.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to know if there is a current list of all committee members.
And we do have a current list of those that we have knowledge of, and I guess if everyone would like it, maybe Jazz, we can send that list out to the whole group so everybody can see who's on and maybe who's not and what have you.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I can remove emails and stuff too. So.
Ma'am?
I'll remove emails so that everyone's information is
Okay. Alrighty, thank you. Alrighty. Alright, up to review of the charter, and there were some additions that were made, and that we had talked about, and Ms. Thea was working those into the document for us, and so I think this is what was passed out to everyone. Alright, go ahead, and we'll let you deal with those additions.
Okay, I think all of the additions are ones that we've discussed, but I just will show them to you. And then one of them was the result of Taffy and I meeting to talk about data. So all the changes are highlighted, just scrolling down to it. So the first one is the one that you haven't seen before. This is under community input and data for committee review. So this is where we talk about, and we haven't really done this yet, but hopefully we will at some point, review relevant qualitative and quantitative data. So we added one sentence. So under the second sentence, it now says the committee will also advise the Anchorage Assembly and the municipality of Anchorage and other relevant partners on equitable data collection and analysis. And then I also added a third bullet below that says disaggregated data to identify disparities within groups and between groups. So like a good example of this is like if any of you were monitoring data during the pandemic, we would often see 2 or more races like reported as one group. And that's a lot of different kinds of people all put into one, right? The one, of course, that Taffy's brought up to us before that I'll share since she's not here to talk about it, is that we often see AAPI all together, so Asian American Pacific Islander grouped together. And again, those are very different communities, different geographic locations. So the goal here is that part of our charter is to address that and advise on that. So I'll just keep going and then we can kind of discuss all of these. The next one is just affirming what we've said before, that members may join as an individual or as a representative of an organization. And if they're representing an organization, that organization may change that representative if they need to, with notice to the committee chairs. And the next one is that just putting in what our practice, which the co-chairs may, you don't have to do it this way, but this is what Pastor May and I have been doing, alternate facilitating committee meetings. And then we may also organize and facilitate work sessions and provide support between meetings, because we just hadn't written that down before. And then the other one was discussed at our last meeting related to a quorum, that regular meetings without formal action can take place without a quorum, and a quorum of 7 members is required for the committee to take formal action. And that was discussed last time. Those are all the additions.
Okay, so question, and my memory is not what it used to be, but anyway, did we actually say 7?
Yes, that's my memory. Jasmine, does that seem right?
Back.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure that we said 7.
Because I think we kind of stalled around a number.
I believe we said 7 because that was when it's a regular assembly committee meeting. In theory, all assembly members would be members of that committee, so a quorum, a simple majority would be 7. So I think that's how we honed in on that number, is my memory.
Okay. So in meetings that there is some formal action, if there are not 7 persons, then we can't even conduct business.
Not formal action, we could still meet.
Okay, without a quorum. Yes. All right, and so if we don't have 7, we can't vote. All right. I'm good with that. Good with 7, number of completion, number of wholeness, number of fullness.
Let's do it.
Yeah. All righty then. Any other commentary, questions about any of these highlighted areas that have been instituted and placed in our charter going forward? All righty.
Just thank you for that work. This is a really thoughtful document. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Laura, for that. And those were points that we had talked about in the past, and so they have been added to the document. And so I guess what we would do, since this is our charter, then we'll entertain a motion to fully adopt with additions.
I would be happy to move that we accept the charter with its additions as written.
All right, thank you, Candace. Laura has lifted her hand to second that, and
second.
All right, we got an additional second. Yeah, all right.
I'm happy to concede my second.
Okay, all right.
The third.
Yeah. All right. But all in favor, aye.
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 Any opposers? All right, ayes have it, and so it is ordered, and we'll move to discuss the annual plan as is listed, and identifying priorities, identifying the budget requests, and future work session if needed. And so relative to the annual plan, I think this is the point and place and space that we decided we would move down to lift a few things in the discussion of this. All right, first of all, I would go at it from this perspective. We have a bulleted item, identify priorities, and so relative to our annual plan, what would we want to make, what do we want to prioritize? Let me put it that way. Yes, ma'am.
Just the two items that we've brought up so far in the meeting. One is that welcoming standard process. That's really kind of an assessment and a planning process. If we wanted to select that as a priority, that I think could go down under
3A.
Yes, thank you. 3A5, update. It says update because I think technically maybe somewhere we have an equity strategic plan, but I don't know that we know what that is. Anyway, so that could be one priority if we wanted to select it. And then one thing that was attached to our meeting invite, I think at our last meeting, and Junior, maybe this is something that you know more about, but is the Affirmative Action Program for Women and Minorities Executive Summary Report. I guess we don't need to talk about that, but I just wanted to remind everybody that was shared with our committee, and it's actually a really cool report. It like really goes through the municipality and looks at places where maybe we could increase hiring in certain ways. I don't know if you want to share anything about this, Junior.
And we showed with the HR director, Tyler, and his team, we worked with that Affirmative Action Plan. We presented a small little presentation last week to Assembly. We're going to dive deeper and more in that in the future session with them.
Cool. And so I just was thinking that this is a really great kind of, it's got a lot of data in it that could be part of this welcoming certification process. So that's one thing just to put on the table as maybe a priority. And then the second thing is related to what Teresa's brought to the committee, which is using this technical assistance through Change Lab. And you know, again, if we want to use that, we need to identify kind of what area of policy they might analyze for us or other things. So I just want to make sure those two things are in our minds as we think about priorities.
Okay. So, go ahead.
Well, we don't have a lot of time left, and I apologize, this is one of the meetings I have to leave a little bit early, but I would, do we need to take action to say if we are interested in taking advantage of the technical assistance being offered? Because I think we should do that. So I think we have multiple choices of, I mean, I wrote down 4 options that I thought would be really good, and I'd be happy with any of them. But I'd like to make a motion that we accept the generous offer from AARP and Teresa to bring somebody in to look at particular policies, whichever we settle on, around improving it around equity.
Okay, that's a motion. Is that a second?
Second.
All right, motion and second that we accept the generous offer from Ms. Holt and AARP. Alrighty, any further discussion on the motion?
I have a question. Lori, did you say you have 4 areas that you think would be good to look into, or what were your 4 areas?
Well, they were mainly the ones she mentioned. It was hiring. I know I've been in a meeting recently with Lucy where she was very passionate about describing how looking at who gets grants and contracts, specifically money that's supposed to be going to those working in equity and community-based organizations, how the municipality administers those in a way that can work with those actual organizations. I have lots of personal experience with that one. So that one's kind of personal. I wondered if there was a way they could look at the way the municipality collects, tracks, and puts out data, as that's another priority that we've talked about, and what the policies around the data are. And then, of course, the hiring. What else? Well, there was the hiring, there was the grants. We could look at contracts. I don't know if that falls under grants. I don't always see those as completely separate, but I know that it's big, yeah. And I think the contracts are really big. So I'd be curious to hear from Lucy if I spoke clearly about what she shared in another meeting. She feels like I fairly represented that.
All right, I don't know if Lucy heard that, but anyway, I think the main thing that we needed to accomplish was accepting the award for technical assistance. And so we've done that. We've said we'll go on record for that. And
I think we just have a question.
oh,
They had a question before.
you had a question before. Yeah. And so I guess what I was going to was we need to follow through on accepting it, and then we'll deal with what the priorities will be. That's what I was about.
Gotcha. Sorry.
About to state. Anyway, all in favor? Opposers?
Aye.
All right, I got that eye. I got those eyes. Hey. Okay, thank you so much. And Ms. Teresa, we do accept your generous offer.
Thank you so much. I'll connect with them. I went online while we were talking, and I found the municipal ordinances, and so I sent those off just for them to look at and see if this is something they could provide information on. So.
Okay, and as it relates to the priorities relative to that, you listed some, but number.
And if I may interrupt really quick.
Sir?
Yeah, thanks. So I guess I would suggest, if that was Teresa, if that was you just speaking now. So ordinances are sort of the tip of the iceberg in terms of what should really be looked at. There's a lot of policy that's probably not anywhere online that you can get direct from the department, but that is probably a lot of what needs to be looked at. Not just the ordinances themselves. Just wanted to put that comment out there. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
You're speaking in terms of the policies governing the way ordinances are brought forth?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, because that's where decisions are made, really. And so I think that would be good. I liked, prior to that statement, I did like the one, maybe that could be something futuristically, the equitable granting, hiring, and contracting processes would be something that's worth looking at policy-wise, because you're talking about dollars and cents, big money, you're talking about putting folk to work, and then I think I mentioned in one of our previous meetings with all of this going forward with report and work and all of that, and who's going to be hiring, who's going to be receiving monies and all of that. That's a big one. But I think, as Kieran stated, the tip of the iceberg is how they're making decisions relative to ordinances that are brought forth. So that may be a good area, good starting point. Good recommendation, I think, Felix. Is that something that the group could concur on? Or would we
Can I add something?
Yes.
This is Lucy. Just keep in mind that I think Teresa said that there's a time frame that we need to get this going. I think December.
I think it has to be completed by December. Yeah. Yes. December 31st. And so
that's correct.
Yeah. And that means we need to decide on an area so that they can really get involved with it going forward as soon as possible. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Maybe pick just one.
Yeah, this is Thea. I guess what I heard Teresa say earlier, and what we have in our annual plan is, we have equitable granting, hiring, and contracting. So what I heard Lori and Lucy's speaking to is probably more in the granting, which I've definitely seen how difficult that process can be. And then I think with hiring, that's where I feel like the plan that Junior worked on, we have really good data. So I wonder if we could start with those two and have Change Lab look at the policies related to grants administration, and then also have them look at the let's getting the name right, the Affirmative Action Program report for 2023, where we have all this really good data that's so current. Maybe have them start with those two things. And it seemed like, Teresa, you were also saying that they could potentially, so I guess I'm just suggesting a process that you share those two areas with them, and then they could come to our next meeting, not prepared to like give us any analysis, but just maybe to propose what they could do within the time they have available. And then we could make a decision specifically based on that.
Okay, I will do that.
So let me ask this: is it the wishes of the group that we start with granting and hiring versus what we were talking about a minute ago?
Versus contracting?
Yeah.
No, versus ordinances.
Well, I think it's the policy. I guess what I heard Felix say was that we should be looking at policy
Around ordinances and how they're put forth.
Oh, I thought, okay, I think I heard, maybe I misunderstood Felix. I thought you were saying that we should be looking at policies, not just the ordinance that says it should be a certain way, but then the policies of how that gets enacted. I think maybe I didn't.
What he was saying was not the ordinances themselves, but the policies surrounding how they come into being and how they're put forth. Because that was the question, clarification I asked for.
Okay, I didn't. Felix, can you clarify? Because I don't think I understood what you were saying.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So essentially, depending on the issue that you look at, but especially when it comes to contracting and anything to do with purchasing, yes, you want to look at the ordinances, but you also want to look at the policies. Again, especially when it comes to purchasing issues. And that was the suggestion that I was making. Because I think I had heard Teresa say she was going to send the ordinances to the folks, and I'm just not sure that won't give you 100% of the picture. You have to send both the ordinances and the policies.
Okay, because I think when we were discussing the hiring and granting and all of that, I thought I understood you to say the tip of the iceberg would be the policies surrounding ordinances as a starting point, and then we migrate into this other. And so, but anyway, it's the wishes of the group. So we're talking about now we've condescended to policies surrounding the ordinances for granting and what have you, and all of that. So I would say we go with the two issues that were recommended and go from there.
Great, I think I got it, so thank you.
All right, appreciate you. All righty. So relative to the annual plan, is there other discussion things of note that we need to look at in your field?
So I think if we're going to go forward with what we just said, we're selecting 3A3, equitable granting, hiring, and contracting, but we're not going to talk about contracting. So we're choosing that as one priority, and then just going from what we discussed earlier on the welcoming standard. To me, that would fall under 3A5 if we wanted to select that as a priority. And I think to actually do the welcoming standard, we would need, that's not something we're going to do as committee members. Like, it's actually a lot of work.
That was a question I had, was who's going to do that work?
Yeah, well, one thing Mara recommended was that this would be too large for basically for this committee, it would be something that the assembly would have to undertake, and there would be some staffing involved necessary as well. So to your point.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so, but it is something that as they are working on it, be it assembly and or staffing or whatever, and then there would be points where we would weigh in on the process. And that was my understanding of what she said to me. I'm just trying to explain what she said to me on that. Yeah. All righty. So we have those couple of priorities. Anything else that are we going to look at anything relative to any budget requests or anything like that? I know we had talked about something.
I think one that I feel like is really important that we really haven't touched on much, and I honestly don't know how we could, but I guess I just want to bring it forward because it's one I think is really important, is B51. So I think we have a very, I guess actually so the topic is livable wages. And I think just having some data around that would be really useful. So under meeting basic needs, food and basic income, and then livable wages for essential workers. I guess without having any proposal about what we would do or how we would do it, I just would want to promote that as another priority.
Okay, so that would be on the food and basic income, livable wages, for essential workers who are disproportionately by o'clock. Okay, so that in itself, the way that's stated, that in itself is a flag when you talk about essential workers and the disproportion of the diversity within those essential workers. And then livable wages, yes. I'm with that.
Me too.
All righty. Any other commentary? And so basically that gives us, what, 3 areas for our priorities going forward from here until, I guess, next August.
And you know we're going to do other things too.
Of course, as it relates to annual, we always doing other things and all of that. All righty, now, relative to back to the budgeting aspect, is there any commentary about the requests that we had on there, like budget requests for monies? I know we had talked about it in almost
before we do that, Pastor May, I have to go, but I would like to ask one favor. It is kind of an equity thing. As a person who is hearing impaired, and this is something I forget to do all the time too, I would be so grateful if folks could turn on their mic and speak into it. When your faces are turned this way or this way, it makes it very hard to hear both in the building and also impossible to hear on Zoom. And speaking perhaps a bit more slowly would also be so helpful, not just to me, but to anyone else who might have the issue and the hearing aids. So I have to run. Thank you so much.
And thank you for raising the flag. Yeah. And my question was relative to the request that we were having on for monetary requests as it relates to the budgeting process that will be ongoing going forward until the I guess spring of the year and a new budget year. Are there any requests that we would have? I know we talked about I would say almost ad nauseum about the honorarium thing. I think we stick that idea, and but I think in terms of, I know from time to time Celeste brought up the idea of having some kind of funding in housing pocket or whatever for groups that may come in as it relates to not only helping us but with me. So any commentary you have for that? If not, we'll move on. And I don't think.
Oh, there's a chat.
Do we still have much online participation?
Yep, we still have a few people.
Yeah. Okay. So anybody have any thought processes as it relates to budget requests, as it relates to the committee, or is that something we'll not deal with at the moment? Yeah. Well, not hearing anything, then we will move off of that one. And so I think we have our priorities set. Are we going to plan any future work sessions as it relates to working deeper in depth on these priorities or what have you? All right. I think maybe we need to look at where we're at and assess where we're at, and maybe when we come back together, we have an idea about whether or not we need to do any future work sessions. And so that would keep us in our time frame without having to add minutes and what have you. So at this particular point, anything that all right, any questions or other items to forward to the Assembly that we need to raise? Any actions to be completed before next meeting? I think we've talked about those that we'll do. Does anybody have anything? So thankful and grateful for those of you who've come in person and those of you who are online. Anybody have anything that we'll raise going forward in preparation for our next meeting? Not hearing it.
Yeah.
Oh. Pamela.
I just moved to adjourn on time.
Through the chair, audience participation real quick.
Oh,
Just ask for the
I don't
record.
see it.
Just ask for the record.
Oh, for the record, I was about to say I don't see anybody. Any audience participation? All right, not hearing any, and thank you for the motion to join, because that was going to be my next thing, to get out on time, as I forestated. Yeah, I'm not going to even accept the second. We out.